What is going on, Pretend here, back with another Honkai style guide, and today I'm here with the full build guide for the character that will be new for the 3.2 second half, being Anaxa. So this video I will be taking you over his kit Eidolons, then I'll be taking you over some Lightcone options, followed by that will be Relic set and Planar Ornament recommendations, and then finally Mainstat and Substat recommendations. I now have a full build guide for every single character that is new and returning in 3.2. If you are summoning for Casterus, Jiaoqiu, Fugue, or Acheron, there is a build guide for all of them right now. You are now watching the one for Anaxa, and for Doctor Ratio, I am linking the one I did make this year already, so you can check that out if you are summoning for him specifically. So I want to say, before I get to the video, if you guys found this video helpful in any way, shape, or form, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all other types of Star Rail content, and let's get straight into the video. So Anaxa is a wind character following the path of erudition. His basic attack deals wind damage equal to 100% of Anaxa's attack to one designated enemy. His skill deals wind damage equal to 70% of Anaxa's attack to one designated enemy, and additionally deals 4 instances of damage. Each instance of damage deals wind damage equal to 70% of Anaxa's attack to one random enemy, prioritizing bouncing to enemy targets that have not yet been hit by the usage of the skill. For each enemy target available to be attacked on the battlefield when the skill is used, increases damage dealt by the skill's usage by 20%. His ultimate inflicts the sublimation state to all enemy units and immediately deals wind damage equal to 160% of Anaxa's attack to all enemy units. In the sublimation state, targets will be simultaneously inflicted with physical, fire, ice, lightning, wind, quantum, and imaginary weaknesses, lasting until the start of each target's turn. If the targets do not have control res, they are unable to take action in the sublimation state. His talent: each time Anaxa attacks enemy targets one time, inflicts one random weakness type to the targets for 3 turns, with the priority to be the weakness type that the target has yet to have. While Anaxa is on the battlefield, inflicts the qualitative disclosure state to enemy targets with at least 5 different weaknesses. Anaxa deals 30% more damages to targets in qualitative disclosure state. In addition, using a basic attack or skill on targets in qualitative disclosure state allows him to use another instance of skill that will also not consume any skill points, but also cannot trigger the effect again. If the target has been defeated before the additional skill is used, it will be dealt to a random enemy unit. For his technique, using the technique will cause enemies within a set area to enter the terrified state. Terrified enemies will flee in a direction away from Anaxa for 10 seconds. When an ally enters battle via attacking a terrified enemy, it will always be considered as entering battle via attacking a weakness. After entering battle, Anaxa will apply one weakness of the attacker's type to every enemy target after entering battle for 3 turns. For his bonus traces, his A2, when using basic attack, additionally regenerates 10 energy. At the start of the turn, if there are no enemies in qualitative disclosure state, immediately regenerates 30 energy. His A4, trigger any one effect in the current battle based on the number of characters on the path of erudition in the team. 1, increases Anaxa's crit damage by 140%, which does include him. Just having him does count that part, so he practically always does have a free 140% crit damage. And at least 2, increases damage dealt by all allies by 50%. And his A6, for every different weakness type an enemy target has, the damage that Anaxa deals to the target ignores 4% of defense up to a max of 7 weakness types. For his Eidolons, his E1, after using skill for the first time, recovers 1 skill point. When any enemy targets are hit by this unit's skill, decreases the target's defense by 16% for 2 turns. His E2, when enemy targets enter battle, trigger the talent's weakness implant effect 1 time and reduces their all-type res by 20%. His E4, when using skill, increases attack by 30% for 2 turns and stacks with 2 times. And his E6, the damage dealt by Anaxa is 130% of the original damage. The 2 effects of the trace, Imperative Hiatus, will be triggered directly and will no longer depend on the number of erudition characters on the team. Now taking a look at some Lightcone options, the best one is obviously going to be his own signature Lightcone, which at the start of the wearer's turn regenerates 10 energy. If the enemy target has a weakness implanted by the wearer, increases the wearer's damage dealt to it by 60%. When enemy targets are attacked by the wearer decreases his defense by 12% for 2 turns, and the same type effects cannot stack. So this is really good because it is free energy you are getting at the start of his turn, which will help you ult a lot more, since you do definitely want to ult as much as possible to ensure you always have all weakness types on the enemy, just so Anaxa gets the full value of his kit. And it gives him a big 60% damage dealt, so that's going to be another fantastic thing to consider because it is a very, very big increase to his damage, as 60% damage dealt is a lot. On top of that, you do get a free 12% defense shred, which isn't that much for a signature Lightcone, but is still fine, and is definitely for a free effect, so all these together does definitely have him do the best damage he possibly can. Now, another really good Lightcone is going to actually be the free-to-play Lightcone we're going to get with the anniversary event when 3.2 does drop, and it gives 8% attack for every different weakness type an enemy target has, increases the damage dealt by the warrior by 4% up to 7 weakness types, and at S5 it is 60% attack with 8% damage dealt stacking. So you get 56% damage dealt once you do have this fully stacked, and as Anaxa does implant every single weakness, he is able to make use of that. So once you do have him have every weakness type on the enemy, you get 56% damage dealt, which is only 4% below his signature, and on top of that, this is also giving you a source of attack, which his kit does not really do. So this also giving you some free attack is going to be nice, and it makes it another good option you can use. Another really good option is actually going to be Herda's signature Lightcone. It provides a 12% increase to crit rate, and when the wearer uses their ultimate, increases the wearer's skill damage and ultimate damage by 60% for 3 turns. After the wearer uses their ultimate, if the ultimate consumed is 140 energy or more, recovers 1 skill point. So Anaxa is a crit based DPS as well, so the extra 12% crit rate is going to be very nice. On top of that, it is very easy to cycle his ultimate, so you are going to have a free 60% increase to his skill damage, which is his main primary source of damage. And his ultimate does do really good damage as well, so getting a 60% increase to damage dealt for both of those is going to be super good. And he does actually have a 140 cost on his energy, so you are actually able to get a free skill point back, which is going to be good for him because you are usually spamming skill. The only cases where you may not spam skill is if you are running him with the Herda, which is a very common team, where you may not have enough skill points, so you are going to basic. Those are the only times you won't actually skill with them, so you won't actually be getting a buff to your basic attack, unfortunately. But as he is able to get a free instance of skill as long as you do have the weakness types implanted on the enemies for a certain amount. To get the free instance of skill, you are going to still get the buff for that, provided you do actually have the ultimate buff up, because you have to use the ultimate to actually get this damage dealt as the Lightcone does state. And so with all those reasons, this is another fantastic option and is one of the best options, probably tied for his Lightcone for the best damage output you can get out of him. Another really good Lightcone is actually the Herda Shop Lightcone, which provides 8% attack, and after using an attack for each enemy target hit, additionally increases attack by 4%, stacks up to 5 times and lasts until the end of the attack. If there's 3 or more targets hit, this unit's speed increases by 8% for 1 turn, and at S5 it's a 12% increase to attack and 8% attack for each enemy hit, and you can get up to 16% speed if you do hit 3 or more enemies. His ultimate and his skill are both AoE, so you are going to always be hitting 3 enemies or more, and practically always 5 if you do have 5 enemies on the field. So you are making use of this entire Lightcone, and as I mentioned, attack percent is a lot more beneficial because Anaxa already has so many sources of damage in his base kit. So the fact you get 12% for free and 8% stacking up to 5 times is going to be super good. And speed is very nice on Anaxa as well, so the extra 16% you do get here is going to be great, which is why it's another fantastic option. Another good option you can actually use is the Genius's Proposed Lightcone, which gives 16% attack, and after the wearer defeats an enemy, the wearer gets 24% crit damage for 3 turns, and at S5 it's 32% attack with a 48% increase to crit damage if the wearer does defeat an enemy for 3 turns. Not much to say here, a 32% increase to attack for free is very good. As I mentioned, attack sources are great. And 48% crit damage for free because it's very easy to kill an enemy on the side or for anything summoned on the battlefield with Anaxa. Since he does have very high damage output, you are very often going to be able to have the 48% crit damage up. And with both of those up, which one of them is unconditional, the other one, if you do have the crit damage up, it's very powerful. If you don't have the crit damage buff up, it loses a lot of value, but for the most part, that shouldn't be an issue. So with those active, it's going to be a great option you can use. For some of the Relic set options for Anaxa, there actually is quite a few options you can use depending on what you have primarily and depending on the level of playstyle you do want to have. So a really overall good one is actually 4-piece of the Genius set, which 2-piece is useless since he doesn't do quantum damage, but the 4-piece gives 10% defense ignore when the wearer deals damage to the target enemy, and if the target enemy has quantum weakness, the wearer additionally ignores 10% defense. And as Anaxa implants every single weakness, which obviously would include quantum, he is getting a free 20% defense ignore. If you also remember to his base kit, he also gets more defense ignore based on every weakness implant on the enemy. And as I mentioned in past videos, and you probably know by now, the more defense ignore you have, the more effective it is. So with just this actual Relic set and his base kit, you are getting a 48% defense ignore, which is very good. And this is not accounting for anyone else you have on the team. So if you have something like Sunday's E1, that's an extra 16% you're getting. That's going to be making it that much better. And then if you have any other sources, very much depends on what level of investment you do have, it's going to further increase that. So just his actual base kit with this relic set alone is a 48% defensive guard, which is just, again, very, very good on its own, and is going to make him do a lot more damage. So that's why 4-piece Genius is one of the best options you can use for his own damage. Another actually really good option if you are pairing him with the Herda, or actually still as a hyper carry, is 4-piece Eagle set, which 2-piece gives wind damage by 10%, which he can use since he's a wind DPS, and the 4-piece after the wear uses their ultimate, their action is advanced forward by 25%. As I mentioned, it's very, very easy to cycle ultimate on Anaxa, so this will allow you to get your turns up a lot more with correct tuning as well. So having more turns will let you use your skill more, let you keep the implants up, get energy back faster to use this ult, and recycle the relic set 4-piece even more, getting a lot more output than you normally would with any other set, because this is going to constantly be pushing your action forward by 25%. Another really cool thing about the Eagle set is what you can do is have a -1 speed setup despite having attack percent boots. If you do have a build on Anaxa where you run attack percent boots, you can still have some speed rolls to where it lets you still get a -1 speed build with Sunday or Brone depending on who you are using, which is another big perk of this relic set. So that's something you do have to tune yourself depending on the speed of your Sunday. So that's another thing you can consider, which is why Eagle is another fantastic option for him. Now the next two relic sets I'm going to mention are relatively equal. They are definitely worse than running either Genius or Eagle, but they are a lot more simple to use and also just very good on their own. And one of them is going to be 4-piece of the debuff set, which is 2-piece increases damage dealt to enemies with debuffs by 12%, which he does do that, so that's going to be good. 4-piece gives 4% crit rate, and the wear deals 8%/12% increased crit damage to enemies with at least 2/3 debuffs. After the wear inflicts a debuff on enemy targets, the aforementioned effect increased by 100% for 1 turn. So free more damage with the 2-piece to debuff enemies, which they always will be with Anaxa because that's how he works. So that's extra damage. You get 4% crit rate with the 4-piece, so that's going to be nice. And if you do have the 3 debuffs and you are able to actually proc the aforementioned effects increase by 100% with him, you're getting a big increase to the crit damage dealt to those enemies that would have those 2/3 debuffs. So he's actually able to fully utilize this himself, which is why it's another really, really good option you can use for his damage output. And then the other set is actually 4-piece of the Scholar set, which 2-piece gives 8% crit rate, 4-piece increases damage dealt by skill and ultimate by 20%, and after you do use your ultimate, additionally increases the damage dealt by the next skill by 25%. So an extra 8% crit rate is going to be nice. On top of that, 20% free damage dealt for your skill and ultimate is going to be really nice as well. And now anytime you do use your ultimate, the next time you do use a skill is going to get an additional 25% damage dealt increase. So just more free damage to your main source of damage, because the skill is his primary source of damage, but the ultimate can still do good damage. You can still use his basic attack to actually proc the instance of skill, but in that case it's still the skill, so technically still the main source of damage. So as this is just buffing him for everything that is good, you know, he's a crit based DPS, so the extra crit rate is good, extra 20% to skill and ultimate damage dealt, and an extra additional 25% once you do use your ultimate for the next skill, which is why this is another great option you can use. Past that, it is actually combining 2-piece 2-pieces, so you can do 2-piece Scholar with the 2-piece of the Wind set. You can do 2-piece of one of those and do 2-piece of one of the attack percent increasing sets, so like Wind Soaring set, 2-piece Hero set, 2-piece Dot set, or 2-piece Musketeers, or 2-piece of any of those and 2-piece of the debuff set. So overall, Genius set 4-piece or the Eagle set 4-piece is definitely my recommendations, because they're going to be Genius set primarily for the best damage you would be doing, Eagle for a lot more setups you can do. But if you don't have either of those and you don't really have a setup for it, then you can still just completely fine go with Pioneer or Scholar. Both of them are relatively similar, just use whichever one you do have better substats on. And if none of those, you can do 2-piece 2-piece, so again 2-piece Scholar, 2-piece debuff, 2-piece of either of those with 2-piece of one of the attack sets, or 2-piece of any of those and 2-piece of the actual Wind set. For Planar Ornaments, it is best to focus on him being a DPS, whether you are using him as a hyper carry or a Herda bot. Either or, it's best to optimize his damage, so one of the best ones he actually will be using is going to be Rule in Arena, which gives 8% crit rate, and when the wearer's crit rate is 70% or higher, damage dealt by basic attack and skill increases by 20%. Unfortunately, there is not one for his ultimate and skill, just primarily those two. So you will have to get the one with the basic attack, which with the Herda you definitely will notice, because you know you sometimes will need to save the skill points. But his skill is also getting the 20% damage dealt increase. That's going to be nice, and on top of that you're getting an extra 8% increase to crit rate, so that's even more crit rate you will be getting for your build. And 70% or higher on Anaxa is definitely going to be wanted, as every crit based DPS definitely wants to have closest to 100% as possible to ensure they are consistent. So that should not really be an issue nowadays, so it's just a free 20% increase to the actual damage dealt for your basic attack and skill, which his skill being his primary source of damage is going to be the main benefit, which is why it's one of the best options you can use. Now if you are doing a setup, if you're running him with with the Herda, or you're even doing him as hyper carry, but you're running another erudition such as Jade, you can use the Izumo set, which gives 12% attack, and when entering battle, if at least one character follows the same path as the wearer, then the wearer's crit rate increases by 12%. So free 12% attack with free 12% crit rate. Not really much to talk about there. As I mentioned, attack percent is good, and the extra crit rate is going to be great if you need more crit rate for your build especially, but this will only work if you are running a full team where he is the hyper carry and you're running someone like Jade, or you're running him with the primary focus of buffing the Herda as much while also, doing his role. In that case, you can use the Izumo set as well. If you do hit the speed thresholds, which if you are running speed boots, you'll be fine. You probably will be going for this. You can use Glamoth, which gives 12% attack, and when the wearer's speed is equal to or higher than 135/160, the wearer deals 12%/18% more damage. Free 12% attack, and on top of that, a free 12%, always mainly going to be 12% damage for just, your basic attack, skill, and ultimate. If you are running a hyper carry and if other forms of buffs, such as something like Robin E2, maybe you're running Ruan Mei for some reason, really depending on what you are doing and what your speed is and what buffs you're running. So you could have like a 144 speed plus actually Robin E2 to get 160 in battle to get the second part where you get the 18% more damage. If you are in that case, it becomes that much better. But even at 135 speed, it's a great option you can use, as it will just be buffing your damage overall. And if not any of those, you can just use Space Stealing Station for an extra 24% attack increase, 12% for free, and then if you have 120 speed or higher, you get an additional 12%. Not really much to say there. Free 24% attack, nice. Mainly an option you are using while you're farming for the other ones, because this is not better than the other ones, but it's still an option you can use at least to get a better option. For the main stats on the relics, for the body, you want to run crit rate or crit damage corresponding to which one you need more. For the feet, primarily always you will be doing is speed to get him up to a -1 speed build if you're doing a hyper carry, or just get him to breakpoint if you are running him with someone like the Herda. But if you are doing a hyper carry setup, you can actually run attack percent boots, as I mentioned this, if you are doing the 4-piece eagle set, and then tune it to where he does go above your Sunday once he does use his ultimate. This will require some speed rolls. It very much depends for player to player. So definitely be sure to tune correctly. So in those cases, if you're doing 4-piece eagle, you can actually use attack percent boots. Speed boost, even with 4-piece eagle, is still very good because you can just get a lot more turns, but attack percent boots are an option in that case. For the orb, you mainly want to do attack percent because he has so much damage dealt sources in his kit. So it's definitely better to get attack percent because he has infinitely less sources and ways to get attack percent as opposed to damage dealt, where his kit gets so much. So attack percent is definitely the way, but if you have a really good wind orb, you can use that until you get a good enough attack percent orb. And for the link rope, you want attack percent. For the substats, first you want to prioritize getting speed to where you do need for your threshold. This is different from player to player. If you need a -1 speed build, you want to get him all the way up to having 1 or 2 more speed than the actual Sunday or Bonia that you're using. And if you're running him with the Herda, then just getting him from 134 speed or higher for breakpoint is going to be nice. And if you're doing the attack percent boots with the actual eagle set 4-piece, then tune that speed to where you actually get that working. And then past that is your generic crit DPS rolls, so crit rate, crit damage, attack percent. Once again, first focus on getting the speed to where you need it for your actual team setup. Whether you're using him as the Herda partner or if you're using him as a hyper carry, just make sure you do get the speed tuning right. Otherwise, speed is very much wasted if you're running just random speed rolls where nothing is working. And past that, just again, more crit rate, more crit damage, and attack percent, as he is your generic DPS outside of that. Yep, that is the full build guide for Anaxa. Once again, hope you guys found the video helpful. If you did, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all other types of Star Off content. Yep, peace out.